Aiden Carter had always loved nature more than people. He was a quiet man, someone who found peace in open skies, long stretches of desert, and the soft sound of wind brushing over rocks. For the past few years, he worked as a wildlife photographer. His job seemed exciting to others, but for him it was mainly a way to be alone with the world. He liked slow mornings, patient waiting, and the feeling of discovering beautiful moments that most people never got to see. That was why he had come to the remote lands of the Southwest, hoping to capture rare pictures of desert animals for a new documentary. He woke before sunrise every day, packed his camera and water, and walked through canyons where only the sun and shadows kept him company. The desert here was quiet in a special way. It did not feel empty. It felt alive and thoughtful, like it had seen many stories over time and remembered all of them. On this particular morning, the sky was painted in soft orange and gold. Aiden followed a narrow trail near an old canyon. He had walked this area before, but today something felt slightly different. He couldn't explain why, maybe the stillness, or maybe a sense that something was waiting to happen. He kept walking, taking a few pictures of the rising sun touching the stone walls. As he rounded a bend, he heard a sound that didn't belong. It was faint, almost mixed with the wind, but definitely human. A soft cry or a pained breath. Aiden quickly turned his head, searching for the source. For a few seconds he heard nothing. Then the sound returned, sharper this time. He followed the noise to the edge of a rocky drop. Below, about 10 or 12 feet down, someone was lying halfway on a slope. The ground there was uneven, covered in loose gravel that made it dangerous to climb. Aiden squinted and saw a young woman, maybe in her early 20s. She looked conscious but unable to move properly. Her long dark hair was scattered across the rocks, and she appeared to be in pain. Aiden's heart skipped. He wasn't someone who panicked easily, but the danger of the spot worried him. One wrong step could cause both of them to fall deeper into the canyon. Still, he didn't think twice. He called out gently, asking if she could hear him. The woman opened her eyes and nodded weakly. She said her name in a soft whisper, but the wind carried most of the sound away. Aiden didn't catch it clearly. She tried to sit up, but her legs slipped, and she let out a quiet gasp. Aiden quickly told her not to move. He looked around, searching for the safest way down. The slope wasn't steep enough to require special climbing gear, but it was still very risky. He tested the ground with his foot and grabbed onto a rock to steady himself. Slowly, he lowered himself down inch by inch until he reached her. Up close, he could see that her ankle was swollen, maybe twisted. Her hands had small scrapes, likely from trying to stop her fall. She looked embarrassed rather than scared, as if she felt bad for causing trouble. Aiden spoke softly so she wouldn't feel uneasy. He asked if she could move her ankle. She shook her head. He checked if anything else seemed injured, but nothing looked serious besides the ankle and the small cuts. He told her his plan. He would help her stand using his support and guide her back up the slope carefully. She hesitated at first, maybe unsure whether her leg could hold her. But Aiden reassured her that they would move slowly. He helped her sit upright and gave her time to adjust. Then he positioned himself behind her to support her weight. They moved step by step. The rocks shifted under their feet, and a few times Aiden tightened his grip to keep her steady. She clung to the fabric of his shirt lightly, careful not to pull too hard. When they reached the top, she let out a relieved breath. Aiden didn't let go until he was sure she could sit safely on solid ground. She thanked him softly, her voice gentle but tired. Aiden smiled politely and told her he was just glad she was okay. It was then that he realized who she might be. The patterns on the woven bracelet she wore, the style of her clothing, and the part of the land she was walking in, these suggested she belonged to a nearby Apache community. He had read about them briefly before starting his project, learning that they lived not far from the area he explored. The woman looked down at her ankle, studying it with a small frown. Aiden offered her water, and she accepted it with a grateful nod. After a moment, she told him her name again, clearer this time. Naeli. Aiden repeated it gently to make sure he said it right. She smiled a little, the first smile he had seen from her. It made her eyes brighten, showing a warmth hidden behind her discomfort. Aiden asked if she had come alone. She said she had been collecting herbs near the canyon when her foot slipped on the loose stones. Usually she walked confidently in these lands, but today she had misjudged her step. They both knew she couldn't walk all the way back to her community with her ankle in this condition. The nearest settlement wasn't too far, but far enough to make the journey difficult for her. Aiden asked if he could take her back. She agreed, though she seemed shy about needing help. Aiden helped her stand again. This time he let her rest her arm over his shoulder so she wouldn't put pressure on her injured leg. They walked slowly, the desert sun now climbing higher, warming the stones and sand around them. During the walk, Aiden was careful with every step. He didn't want her to feel rushed or worried. Though she spoke little at first, she gradually became more comfortable. She pointed out small plants and explained what they were used for. Healing tea, calming herbs, natural cleansing leaves. Her voice was soft, but her knowledge was clear. Aiden listened with genuine interest. He had always respected nature, and hearing someone speak about it with such connection felt special. As they approached her community, Aiden noticed how her posture changed slightly. She relaxed, knowing she was close to home. A few houses made of wood and adobe came into view, blending respectfully with the land rather than competing with it. When they reached the main entrance path, a group of people saw them and hurried over. Aiden stepped back a little so they could care for her. Two older women supported Naeli under each arm and thanked Aiden for bringing her safely. Then a few elders arrived, their faces showing both concern and relief. One of the men, clearly a respected elder, listened carefully as Naeli explained what happened. Then he turned to Aiden with calm eyes. He thanked him kindly and sincerely, placing a gentle hand over his chest, a gesture of respect. Aiden returned the gesture politely, though he wasn't fully sure of its meaning. The elders spoke quietly with one another. Aiden didn't fully understand what they discussed, but their expressions suggested something serious, yet peaceful. Naeli, now sitting comfortably on a blanket, looked at Aiden with a mix of gratitude and curiosity. It seemed she wanted to say more, but the elders spoke before she could. They told Aiden that in their tradition, saving a person's life held deep meaning. Even if his intention was only kindness, the act connected their paths in a spiritual way. It wasn't about promises or ownership, nothing like that. It was about respect, destiny, and an old belief that life-saving actions created a bond of responsibility and mutual respect between two people. Aiden listened carefully, unsure how to respond. He wasn't expecting anything in return. All he wanted was to help someone in need. He tried to explain this, but the elders smiled and nodded gently. They understood his thoughts, but their tradition was something they had followed for generations. To them, his rescue meant he was now linked to Naeli in a meaningful, symbolic way. Aiden felt slightly overwhelmed, but not uncomfortable. He respected cultural traditions deeply. He didn't want to dismiss their beliefs, nor did he want to misunderstand them. The elders assured him that nothing heavy or demanding was expected of him. They simply wanted him to know that his kindness meant more than he realized. Naeli watched him with thoughtful eyes, maybe wondering what he thought of all this. Aiden gave her a small, reassuring smile. She smiled back, and in that moment, something quiet and peaceful passed between them, an understanding that none of this was planned, but somehow it felt significant. The community invited Aiden to rest and share a simple meal before he returned to his camp. He accepted, feeling honored. As he sat among them, Listening to their stories and gentle laughter, he sensed that this day was the beginning of something important. He didn't know what it would become, but he felt a calm curiosity. He had come to the desert seeking photographs. Instead, he had found a story that would change his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. After helping Nayeli back to her community, Aiden expected the situation to end there. He thought he would thank the elders for their kindness, return to his small camp, and continue with his photography work the next morning. But things rarely follow the plans we create in our minds. As he sat under the shade of a large wooden shelter, sipping warm herbal tea that one of the women had prepared, he sensed that something important was happening around him. The elders had gone into a quiet discussion, speaking in soft tones. Their expressions were calm, thoughtful, and respectful. Aiden didn't understand their language fully, but he recognized the seriousness of their conversation. Meanwhile, young children ran around the open area, playing happily, while a few men worked on repairing tools nearby. The entire place felt peaceful, almost like a small world hidden inside a much larger one. After a few minutes, the elder who had earlier thanked Aiden walked toward him. His movements were slow but firm, and his eyes carried wisdom earned from years of life. He sat down beside Aiden and took a deep breath, as if choosing his words carefully. He told Aiden about an old tradition that their community still honored. According to this belief, when someone saved the life of one of their daughters or sons, a spiritual connection formed between them, a bond not of force or ownership, but of gratitude, respect, and shared destiny. It was a tradition that symbolized the value of life and the honor of protecting it. Aiden listened closely. He didn't interrupt, even though he felt a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. He wasn't used to being the center of attention or having his actions treated with such deep meaning. He saw himself as an ordinary man who had simply helped another person in trouble. He had never expected anything more. When the elder finished speaking, Aiden gently explained that he hadn't saved Nayeli for recognition or reward. He had only done what he hoped anyone would do for him. The elder nodded, smiling kindly. They understood that. But the tradition wasn't about giving something to him or binding him to something he didn't want. It was more like a respectful acknowledgement that their paths had crossed for a reason. Aiden still felt unsure. He wanted to respect the culture, but he also didn't want to misunderstand it. The elder sensed this and continued speaking, telling Aiden that the tradition didn't require him to do anything he wasn't comfortable with. It simply meant that their community now considered him connected to Nayeli in a positive and meaningful way. They believed that fate had guided him there, and they wished to honor that. As Aiden absorbed all this, Nayeli sat in the distance, her ankle bandaged gently by two older women. She looked at him from time to time, her expression soft and a little shy, as if she felt responsible for bringing this unexpected situation upon him. When their eyes met, she offered him a small, encouraging smile, as if telling him not to worry. After the elders finished speaking to him, Nayeli's father approached. He wasn't a tall man, but he carried himself with quiet strength. His face was calm, but his eyes held deep gratitude. He placed a hand on Aiden's shoulder and thanked him sincerely for saving his daughter. This gesture made Aiden feel a little embarrassed. He wasn't accustomed to such heartfelt appreciation. He tried to explain again that he didn't feel he had done anything special, but Nayeli's father simply shook his head kindly. To him, a life saved was never a small thing. He invited Aiden to stay a little longer, at least until the afternoon sun lowered. Aiden agreed. He felt it would be rude to leave too quickly, and besides, there was something comforting about being among these people, even though he hardly knew them. As the day moved forward, Aiden found himself learning more about the community. Some of the younger members showed him how they created handmade bracelets, carving each bead carefully with small tools. Others shared stories of past seasons, of changes in the land, of the importance of nature in their daily lives. Every conversation felt like a window opening into a world Aiden had only seen from far away. Nayeli eventually walked toward him with the help of a wooden stick carved neatly at the top. Her ankles still hurt, but she managed to move without too much discomfort. She sat down beside Aiden and thanked him again. This time her voice was stronger, though still gentle. Aiden told her she didn't have to thank him anymore. He said he was glad she was safe and hoped she would heal quickly. Nayeli smiled and asked him about his photography work. Her eyes grew curious when he described how he spent hours waiting to capture the perfect moment. Like a bird spreading its wings at sunrise or a rare animal walking across the sand. She asked if she could see some of his pictures. Aiden felt a little shy showing his work. But he opened his camera anyway and scrolled through a few shots. Nayeli's face brightened as she admired them. She said his pictures didn't just show animals. They showed the spirit of the land. Aiden felt a warm sense of pride. He rarely shared his photos with strangers, but sharing them with her felt natural. As the sun began its slow journey toward the horizon, the elders returned. They spoke gently with Nayeli and then with Aiden once more. They explained that the tradition of life-saving was not something that required a ceremony immediately. Instead, it was something that would unfold naturally with understanding and respect. They invited Aiden to visit again in the coming days, not because he had to, but because they wished to welcome him. Aiden hesitated. He didn't want to intrude or seem as if he was taking advantage of their hospitality, but the elders insisted that their doors were open to him now, and the community considered him a friend. Aiden finally agreed, promising to return when Nayeli was feeling better. He felt lighter after making that promise, as if something inside him had settled. As he prepared to leave, Nayeli stood with the help of her father. She thanked Aiden again, her eyes sincere and warm. She told him that their tradition didn't mean anything uncomfortable or strange. It simply meant she felt grateful, and her community felt grateful too. She hoped he would visit again, not because of the tradition, but because she enjoyed talking to him. Aiden smiled and told her he would come back soon. He walked away from the community, his camera bag over his shoulder, the sky turning purple and gold above him. The desert air felt cooler now, almost welcoming. While walking back to his camp, Aiden kept thinking about everything that had happened. He had only planned to take pictures, yet he had ended up saving someone's life, becoming a part of a tradition he had never heard of, and meeting people who felt more genuine than many he had known in cities. Aiden realized that something inside him had changed that day. He wasn't sure what it was yet, but he felt it. Maybe it was the sense of belonging he had never felt anywhere else. Maybe it was Nayeli's warm smile or the elders' gentle respect. Or maybe it was simply the feeling of being seen, not as a stranger, but as someone who mattered. As night settled across the desert and stars began to sparkle above, Aiden sat by a small fire at his camp. He replayed the day in his mind and felt grateful he had been at the right place at the right time. The thought of returning to Nayeli's community did not feel like an obligation. It felt like something he wanted to do. He didn't know what the future held, but he sensed that this was only the beginning of a journey far bigger. Aiden returned to his camp that night with thoughts spinning gently inside his mind. He lay under the stars, listening to the desert wind brushing over the dry grass. Usually, he loved the silence of the land. It made him feel free. But tonight, the silence felt different, almost full, as if the air carried the memory of voices, smiles, and moments he had not expected to experience. He kept thinking about Nayeli's gentle smile, the kindness of the elders, and the strange but respectful tradition they had shared with him. He did not fully understand it yet, but he respected it deeply. A sense of connection tugged at his heart, something he had not felt for a long time. He knew he would return to her community, not because he felt obliged, but because he wanted to understand more. The next morning, Aiden woke early, but instead of wandering through the canyons with his camera, he found himself preparing to visit the Apache community again. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. What if they misunderstood his intentions? What if he accidentally acted in a way that disrespected their customs? Yet he also felt hopeful, remembering how warmly they had treated him the day before. As he walked toward the community, the desert air still held the cool touch of dawn. He carried a small bag with some herbal medicine and fruit he had bought from a nearby town weeks earlier. He thought it would be a polite gesture to bring something, even though he knew they expected nothing from him. When he arrived, he saw familiar faces. Children playing near the entrance stopped and waved at him happily. A few women greeted him with soft smiles. Aiden felt surprisingly welcomed, like he was returning to a place he had known for much longer than just one day. Nayeli was sitting outside her home with her legs stretched out on a small cushion. Her ankle was still wrapped neatly. When she saw Aiden, her face lit up with a warm, pleased expression. He greeted her kindly and asked how her ankle was healing. She told him it still hurt a little, but she felt much better than the day before. She thanked him again for helping her and for coming back to visit. Aiden handed her the small bag of fruits and herbal medicine. She looked surprised but grateful, gently accepting the gift. They spent the morning talking. Nayeli explained more about her community, how they celebrated different seasons, how they respected the land deeply, how much value they placed on kindness and responsibility. Aiden listened with real interest. He felt like he was learning things he had never learned from books. The elders also came to speak with him. They were happy to see that he had returned. One of them told him that when someone returns willingly after helping a member of the community, it is considered a sign of sincerity. They told him more about the tradition of life-saving, making sure he knew that it did not tie him into anything uncomfortable. It was simply a spiritual connection, a belief that two lives which crossed in a moment of fate should stay connected through mutual respect and understanding. Aiden felt relieved. He had been worried they might expect something more formal or binding, but their words reassured him. He admired the symbolic meaning behind the tradition. It made him feel honored rather than pressured. As the days passed, Aiden visited the community regularly. Sometimes he helped with small tasks, carrying water, fixing a wooden fence, or gathering plants. Other times he simply spent time talking with the people, learning their stories and laughing at the light-hearted jokes they shared. He especially enjoyed talking with Nayeli. Their conversations were simple and honest. She told him about growing up in the community, about learning traditional music and herbal knowledge from her grandmother, and about her love for the land. In return, Aiden shared stories about his photography trips, traveling to forests, mountains, and lakes in different parts of the country. Their bond grew naturally, slowly, like a plant sprouting from the ground after gentle rain. There was nothing forced about it. It was peaceful and warm. But outside the quiet world of the community, things were beginning to change. One afternoon, while Aiden was helping repair a wooden post near the center of the village, a man from a nearby town arrived with supplies. He recognized Aiden and asked why he spent so much time in the Apache settlement. Aiden explained the rescue and how he had returned to visit. The man's eyes widened with exaggerated surprise. He laughed loudly and said things like, "So they say she belongs to you now, and are you sure you want that kind of trouble?" Aiden immediately felt uncomfortable. The man didn't understand the tradition at all, and he wasn't being respectful. A few community members nearby heard the conversation and looked uneasy. They didn't seem angry, only hurt by the man's careless words. Aiden politely corrected the man, explaining that the tradition was about respect, not ownership, and that he valued the community's kindness deeply. But the man simply shrugged, not understanding the depth of what he was dismissing. Later that evening, Aiden felt troubled. His intention was never to bring unwanted attention to the community. He didn't want outsiders to misunderstand or mock something that held real meaning. He feared that his presence might cause problems. Nayeli noticed his silence and asked if something was wrong. Aiden hesitated but told her about the man's comments. She listened quietly, then placed a gentle hand on his arm. She told him not to worry. Outsiders sometimes misunderstood their customs because they didn't take the time to learn. What mattered was that Aiden understood and respected the tradition. The community knew his heart was sincere. Her reassuring words eased the discomfort that had settled in his chest. Still, Aiden felt a growing responsibility, not because the elders told him to feel it, but because he truly cared about the people and wanted to protect their dignity. He wanted to make sure no misunderstanding would harm the peace he had come to appreciate so deeply. The next day, the elders held a small gathering at sunset. They invited Aiden to sit with them. They explained gently that they had heard about the outsiders' disrespectful comments. They told Aiden that such misunderstandings happen sometimes, but they trusted him to guide the situation with care. They said they valued him not just because he saved Nayeli, but because he had shown kindness, humility, and willingness to listen. These qualities meant more to them than any tradition. Aiden felt touched by their confidence in him. It strengthened his desire to protect and honor their trust. He promised them he would handle any misunderstanding with respect and clarity. The elders nodded, satisfied. After the gathering, Nayeli walked with Aiden under the soft orange glow of the evening sky. Her steps were slower due to her ankle, but she didn't seem bothered. She told him she appreciated how much effort he put into understanding their culture. Many outsiders never tried at all. Aiden smiled softly and told her that he felt at peace in her community. He had spent years traveling, never staying long in one place. But this land felt different. It felt like it carried stories older than anything he had known, and he felt honored to hear even a small part of them. Their quiet conversation flowed gently like a river, smooth and natural. A warm connection had grown between them. Something chosen, not forced. Something calm, not rushed. As days turned into weeks, Aiden became more familiar with the rhythm of community life. He learned the meaning behind certain ceremonies, the values they upheld, and the deep respect they had for nature. He also learned more about Nayeli, who was kind-hearted, brave, and thoughtful. Their friendship deepened with every passing day. Aiden knew now that their connection wasn't just because of the rescue or the tradition. It had grown into something much more meaningful. But he also understood that he had to move slowly and respectfully. He didn't want to create any expectation or misunderstanding. All he wanted was to be present, to learn, to help when needed, and to cherish the simple but beautiful bond forming between him and the community, especially between him and Nayeli. And while he didn't yet know what the future would bring, one thing was becoming clear. His journey here was far from over. Something in this place, something quietly powerful, was guiding him toward a new chapter of life he had never imagined. As more weeks passed, Aiden found himself becoming a familiar part of the Apache community's daily life. Not because anyone expected him to be, but because he felt naturally drawn to the peaceful rhythm of their days. Every visit felt warm, welcoming, and sincere. What had started as a simple rescue had now grown into something deeper. Something that felt like a connection shaped by time, kindness, and quiet trust. Nayeli's ankle healed completely. She was now able to walk normally again, though she still carried the walking stick her father had carved for her. Not because she needed it, but because it reminded her of the strange and unexpected chain of events that had brought Aiden into her life. Whenever she looked at the stick, she remembered the moment she had slipped on the canyon slope, and the calm determination in Aiden's eyes as he helped her climb back up. She remembered how he never once complained, never showed frustration, and never let her feel embarrassed. One warm morning, when Aiden arrived in the community, Nayeli greeted him with a bright smile and suggested they walk along one of the quieter trails near the village. The elders had blessed her ankle the night before, declaring it strong enough for proper walking again. She wanted her first long walk to be with Aiden. They moved slowly along the path, surrounded by desert shrubs, soft earth, and distant rocky hills. Birds sang lightly above them, and the sun cast a gentle glow across the land. It felt peaceful, like the world had softened its voice to let them talk freely. Nayeli asked Aiden about his home. He told her that he grew up in a busy city filled with tall buildings, crowded streets, and constant noise. He explained that although he loved his family, he never felt completely comfortable in the city. The noise made it hard for him to think. The tall structures made him feel trapped. So he had turned to nature, searching for places where he could breathe easily. Nayeli listened with interest, imagining a place so different from her own. She explained that her community had lived on this land for generations. Every rock, every tree, every hidden spring held meaning. Her grandparents had told her stories about their ancestors, stories full of wisdom about balance, respect, and living with the land rather than against it. Aiden admired how deeply she understood the world around her. It wasn't book knowledge. It was lived wisdom, the kind you only learned by growing up close to nature. He felt grateful that she chose to share these things with him. Their walk lasted longer than either of them expected. They talked freely, laughed softly at small jokes, and sometimes simply walked in silence, enjoying the peace. There was no pressure, no forced conversation, just two people slowly discovering each other's hearts. When they returned to the community, the elders were waiting. They had planned a small gathering for that evening, not a ceremony, but a simple celebration of gratitude. They wanted to thank the spirits for Nayeli's healing, for Aiden's kindness, and for the harmony that had grown between their community and this quiet, gentle visitor. Aiden felt honored, though he wasn't sure he deserved such attention. But the elders insisted, explaining that gratitude was an important part of their way of life. They believed in acknowledging the good that came into their lives, no matter how quietly it arrived. As the sun began to set, everyone gathered around a large open space near the center of the village. A small fire had been lit, its flames dancing softly in the growing twilight. Children sat close together, waiting for the evening's stories. The men and women settled comfortably on blankets, forming a half circle around the elders. Aiden was invited to sit near Nayeli's family. Her father greeted him warmly, and her mother placed a small woven blanket beside him so he wouldn't have to sit on the bare ground. Aiden thanked them respectfully and sat down. As the fire crackled softly, one of the oldest elders stood up. His face was lined with age, but his voice was strong and steady. He began to speak about the rare moments in life when two different paths unexpectedly cross and create something meaningful. He spoke about how kindness, sincerity, and courage could change the course of a person's life, and sometimes even a community's life. He told the story of how Nayeli had been rescued, but he did not speak of it in dramatic terms. Instead, he spoke of the quiet strength Aiden had shown, the humility he carried, and the way he respected their traditions without hesitation. He said these qualities were more valuable than any physical action. Aiden felt his heart warm at the elder's words. He wasn't used to being praised like this. If anything, he often doubted himself. Hearing such sincere appreciation made him feel seen in a way he had never felt before. When the elder finished, Nayeli's grandmother stepped forward. She held a small pouch sewn from soft leather, decorated with tiny beads and symbols. She explained that it was a token of thanks, a simple gift meant to protect the spirit of the person who carried it. She gave it to Aiden with gentle hands, telling him she hoped it would bring him peace on every path he walked. Aiden accepted it with deep respect, feeling a wave of emotion he hadn't expected. He thanked her softly, promising to keep it safe. The evening continued with soft music played on wooden flutes, gentle singing, and stories told by people of all ages. Aiden felt enveloped in warmth, not the warmth of the fire, but the warmth of belonging. It was a feeling he had searched for all his life without knowing it. After the gathering ended, Aiden and Nayeli walked toward the edge of the village where the stars shone brightly above them. The night sky stretched overhead like a quiet ocean of light. Nayeli looked at him thoughtfully and asked if he planned to continue his travels soon. The question surprised him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the usual restlessness that pushed him from place to place. He told her honestly that he didn't know. She nodded, not pressuring him for an answer. She simply said that whatever he chose, she hoped it came from his heart, not from fear, not from pressure, but from truth. Aiden thought about her words long after he returned to his camp. He sat alone under the stars, holding the small leather pouch in his hands. For years he had been wandering, always searching for something beyond the horizon. But now, for the first time, he felt like he didn't need to keep searching. He had found a place where he felt understood, a place where he could breathe, a place where he had grown close to someone who cared about the world the way he did. He realized that maybe the tradition the elders spoke about wasn't only about saving a life. Maybe it was also about being guided toward a new beginning. The next morning, Aiden returned to the community. Nayeli was standing outside her home, smiling as he approached. Her smile grew even brighter when she saw the leather pouch hanging safely around his neck. Aiden took a deep breath, feeling calm and certain. He told her and her family that he wished to stay longer, not forever yet, not with any heavy decisions, but long enough to learn more, to help more, and to understand more deeply the life they lived. Nayeli's parents exchanged warm smiles. The elders nodded knowingly, and Nayeli's eyes softened with a gentle happiness that said she understood exactly what he meant. A new chapter had begun for him, a chapter shaped not by wandering, but by connection, respect, and quiet love. His journey had brought him to the desert searching for photographs, but what he found instead was a place where his heart finally felt at home.